Hello, I'm going to walk you through the breached password detection feature of FusionAuth today. You may want to enable the breached password detection feature of FusionAuth if you want to increase the security of your system with minimal impact to the user experience. FusionAuth scours the internet for collections of compromised passwords and makes them available to your system. When thinking about enabling this feature, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have a valid license key. You can do that by going to the Reactor tab on your FusionAuth admin screen and making sure that the license has been entered correctly. This is also where you can see the number of breached passwords or compromised passwords that have been detected in your system. The next thing to do is to go to the tenant section, and you're going to edit the tenant, go to the password tab, and then from there you're going to proceed to the breach password detection settings section, and you want to enable that section. Now there are a couple of options here. The first is the match mode, and this is what you're going to match on, what the system is going to match on. So there are three options for match criteria. The first and most secure is to match on password. So if I have a password, call it password 12345, and this password has been identified anywhere as having been breached in any account on any system, then FusionAuth will treat this as breach password. The second option is to match on the username or a part of the username and then the password as well. And the third is to match only on an exact match of the email or the username, or if the password is a really common password, such as password 1 or something like that. So we recommend checking on just the string of the password and not being concerned about the username or the email address associated with it at all. The second option that you can configure is what you do on login. So the matches, the check against compromised passwords are made anytime a user registers, anytime a user changes their password, anytime an administrator changes a user's password. So those three scenarios are handled automatically for you. You can't turn those off. What you can do is decide to take an action on user login with the compromised password. So the reason you might choose to do so is if the user signs up for your system, signs up for another system and reuses their password, and then that other system gets compromised, they wouldn't be notified of this breach, and more importantly, you wouldn't be notified of this breach until they tried to change their password if you turned off the login check. So your options are to turn off login check, which is one option. You can also record the result, but don't tell the user. So I would fire off a webhook, increment the metrics, and that's a good way to ease into things. If you have a big system and you just want to have some idea of how many breach passwords you're actually processing in your system. You can notify the end user via email, and in that case you can choose an email template. Like all email templates, this can be localized, or you can require an immediate password change. And again, that's the most secure option, so we're going to choose that. We save that off, and that's all the configuration you need to do. So let's go ahead and see what this actually looks like for the end user. Open up an incognito window. And we're going to log in. and here's someone who has a password that I know is insecure. And so they are going to now see that they're forced to update their password. And you can do the same thing with our APIs. If you have a curl script or any of the client libraries that log someone in, you will go through that same path. So if I run this, you can see that I'm given a 203, which if we look at the user APIs will show you that that person needs to change their password, as opposed to 200, which would indicate that they had logged in successfully. All right, so that is a tour of the breach password feature in FusionAuth. You can see that you can enable this very easily, and that your systems will benefit by making sure that your users have passwords that aren't compromised. Thank you.